From the offbeat, to the macabre, to the downright bizarre, the world is full of fascinating places to go and things you just have to see to believe. Like a sun-scorched village in the Philippines where faith is put to the test in a shocking ancient ritual. Like an extraordinary museum in Philadelphia that specializes in skeletons, skulls, guts, and brains.
I'm gonna puke.
And a world-renowned beach resort that takes fun in the sun to a frighteningly freaky new level. From flights of fancy to cantankerous camels, let's travel the world in search of things you have to see to believe. Ladies and gentlemen, sit right up and take a look at one of the craziest places on Earth. The amazing, the colossal, the one and only Coney Island Sideshow. The Sideshow by the Seashore is one of Coney Island's best-kept secrets. It's the last of a rare breed, the 10-in-1 Circus, a bizarre exhibition of 10 freakish acts under the very same roof. The Sideshow is in the heart of Coney Island, a playground for New Yorkers, where the beach, the boardwalk, and the bazaar come together for fun in the sun.
Jumbo jet, the pirate ship, the water rides. There's a lot of cool stuff here.
There's a lot of characters on the boardwalk, you know. You get a taste of Coney Island, you just come here and just relax, you know, enjoy the fresh air, and it's very interesting just watching around the boardwalk.
Actually, it's just off the boardwalk where the real characters are. On the corner of Surf Avenue and 12th Street, you'll find a sanctuary for eccentrics.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, come on in, come on over, come on up close. We're having a free show. Right here is a free show. Come on over.
We call it a sideshow, and it is a new wave theater.
Sideshows are an American art form, specifically a New York City art form. P.T. Barnum started sideshows, but not the format that they became most famous for. The 10-in-1 Circus Sideshow is a Coney Island invention.
Right now you're standing in front of a very special place in Coney Island. You see, you're at the world-famous Coney Island Sideshows by the Seashore. The last remaining real live 10-in-1 Circus Sideshow left in the whole country.
And now, ladies and gentlemen...
The Sideshow, Barnum style, became extinct in the late 1950s when it was impolite to stare. 20 years later, a Yale drama graduate named Dick Zigun brought the Sideshow back to life.
We are performance-oriented, not Gawker-oriented, which means that I still will not hire anybody with a deformity just who sits there and lets the audience laugh at them or feel superior to them.
Today, the Coney Island entourage consists of a mind-boggling mix of contortionists, fire eaters, and magicians.
This is a bed of nails. These nails are rusty. They're old. They're crooked. These are really bad nails.
I came to work here as a ticket seller, a doorman. I needed a very interesting place to hang out, and I ended up working in the show, so that's what I do now.
Count of 3. Hold each other's hand. Yeah. Yeah, you can do it. Oh, come on, you can do it.
I don't really feel the pain, and I have certain ways of tensing my muscles up and relaxing them at the same time. And although I have been hurt, I've had broken ribs and dislocated shoulders, and I've had people that are real nasty who've gotten up and jumped up and down on top of me. It's all about concentrating on what you're doing and being in the moment. If you're thinking about your cat when you're doing it, and you're thinking about, did I feed the cat or not, you could really get hurt.
We can see the hole on his back from the needle. It was awesome. It was like a little, not bloody, but like orange. Like you can see then if he was going further, you can see a little, the blood come through a little bit.
Live
Other performers may have gotten into the act with less exciting stories, but they still have a twist.
So say hello to Serpentina.
I got into the business as a blade box girl, and then I got what I like to think of as a promotion to snake charmer.
But no job in the show may be as difficult or as popular as the man who swallows swords and eats fire.
Fire, I'd say, was the worst act to learn from the beginning. I mean, there's no way to learn it except to do it yourself. There are no practice runs.
This is not an illusion. This is not a collapsible sword.
The sword swallowing act is still my least favorite in the whole show.
24 inches of solid steel from the tip of my lips, pass it down the back of my mouth through my throat, on down into my stomach until it bottoms out right about here at the bottom of my belly. It's all mind over matter. So if you don't have a mind, it really doesn't matter. Here we go, down the hatch, without a stretch.
It took me years and years of very painful training and dedicated practice to learn to eat fire, to do the blockhead act, all of it individually has been more than a year for each act.
Here we go. Woo! And that's what we call a human blockhead.
Coney Island Sideshow by the Seashore is open daily during the summer and on weekends during the winter. And if you're visiting in June, there's one other freak show you shouldn't miss, particularly if you've ever dreamed of running away to join the circus. Coney Island's annual Summer Mermaid Parade is a splashy party in which everyone, and they mean everyone, is invited to participate. Every year, more than 500 mermaid fans dress up and parade down Surf Avenue. It's a celebration of the island's diversity and the islanders' love for the beach.
We are the Mer Pack. We've got Frank Sinatra and Dean Marlin, Sammy Davis Tuna, Joey Bishop, Peter Clawford, Merlin Monroe.
There's something about having a tail that just feels home.
Every year, hundreds of fans gather to gawk at the Mermaid Parade and pay homage to the Sideshow by the Seashore.
You have to see this. It's Coney Island. It's a legend.
A legend you may have to see to believe. Coney Island, a place where mermaids, fire eaters, and hot dog lovers can commune under the sun and escape from everyday life for a while. Coming up next on Things You Have to See to Believe, the absurd takes flight in Bognor, England. Later, private parts go on public display at a Philadelphia museum you'll need a strong stomach to visit. We're back with more Things You Have to See to Believe. Since before recorded history, mankind has looked to the sky and envied the graceful, effortless flight of birds. In myth and in dreams, we have sought to follow them into the air. Those who led the way have been prophets, visionaries. And of course, some have just been stark raving mad. Welcome to the International Bognor Birdman, the world-famous festival of grit, guts, and airborne lunacy that every year draws would-be Wright brothers to the tiny seaside resort town of Bognor Regis on the English Channel. The challenge is quite simple, really. Just leap from this platform on the town pier, 35 feet above the sea, and then fly. All qualifying aircraft must be entirely human-powered. Naturally, anything else just wouldn't be good form. Waiting for any contestant who can break a distance of 100 yards is the grand prize, 25,000 British pounds, about $40,000. This contest has been held for 30 years, but the grand prize remains unclaimed. Here's why.
Are you ready for the flying? You get it?
Still, $40,000 is enough to make one or two eccentric Englishmen take the challenge seriously.
It sounds a bit crazy, but I watch the birds a lot. I watch a lot of seagulls soaring the cliffs. Believe you me, they teach you everything about flying.
I hope this manages to pass through the regulations. It's been a bit eaten by mice over the last couple of years, and the wingspan of the glider can't exceed 30 feet. This particular machine, it does. So preparation has meant bringing a hacksaw down and cutting the tips off.
First-timer Jake Frith entered this year's contest after he discovered a used hang glider on sale for $150.
The basic idea is I'll be lying here, horizontal, chin resting on here, feet on the pedals, wherever they are, and the hang glider bar under here, getting steered as normal.
Jake Frith, there he is. He's got adjusted hang glider.
He certainly has.
Is it mal-adjusted?
The Mighty Swallow.
The Mighty Swallow.
Yeah,
I did that last night with a pint.
Basically, I hope I don't embarrass myself. I hope I just don't crash land.
Actually, the crash landing is what really sets the Bognor Festival apart from other human flight contests. The greatest number of flyers aren't planning on flying very far, and they all jump to raise money for charity.
So that's presumably when you're doing aerobatics?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a full range of ages. Stupidity doesn't actually seem to wear off with age. It's not always the young and stupid. The senile join in as well.
The pier is crawling with these unbalanced optimists, so they get two whole categories of their own. First, there's the Leonardo da Vinci's, flying machines that flap, flutter, or just fall. And then there's the Kingfisher category, for the much, much less serious flyers.
My name is Princess Leia. I have the Force on my side, and I'm here to do the Bognor Birdman. And I had the costume anyway from a previous fancy dress party, so it seemed like the best idea.
We don't want people jumping on top of each other, as may have happened in the past. So it's not like driving a car, you're jumping off a platform.
And with the final signal, the flying begins.
Intrepid flyer. There he goes. What a distance. Marvellous. Yeah, there wasn't that a stupendous start. Oh, well done. The balloon helped, didn't it? Oh, I don't believe it. Oh! Hey! Down he goes. Very good. Hey, here he goes, the white stuff, and I hope he's all right. Yes!
It turns out that despite their fondest hopes, gravity applies in Bognor Regis after all. Even Chitty Chitty Bang Bang can't put on the brakes on a slope this steep. And while the force may indeed be with Princess Leia, it must have been looking somewhere else at the moment she jumped. Only at high tide is the water deep enough for safe flying. Rescue teams and scuba divers prowl beneath the pier, and Bognor fishermen retrieve the leftover bits and pieces of the aircraft, or whatever. It turns out that actually flying off the Bognor Pier is a lot harder than it looks, even if you took the trouble to bring wings.
Here we go.
At 10 to 12 knots, the headwind is so stiff that just getting your flyer up and over the edge can be a daunting experience.
Here we go. Oh, yes.
But now the joking is over, sort of. With the Kingfishers and Leonardo da Vinci's all over the side and soaking wet, the magnificent flyers take the stage. Bognor native and hometown hero David Bradshaw holds the reigning record in the Birdman competitions with over 90 yards. Just 10 extra yards this year, and the grand prize is his. Can he beat his own record?
Push, 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 push. He's doing it, he's doing it, he's doing it.
No, he's not. Bradshaw pulls up short, and a sudden gust brings him down.
Fantastic. Well done, David.
The problem is, flying at Bognor is nothing like hang gliding off of cliffs and mountains where warm air turns into updrafts that lift the gliders. No updrafts on the pier, so the trick is to pump the nose of the glider to catch the wind and turn the pull of gravity into forward motion. Not like this.
With the craft, actually, that's the general idea, but well done anyway.
But if anyone can do it, it's Ron Freeman. Twice before, Freeman has flown the farthest in a Birdman event, and today's conditions are perfect for an attack on the grand prize money. He tests the wind. He checks his harness. He jumps. It's a nearly perfect jump. Freeman builds up speed and skates only inches above the waves. But 40 yards short of a goal, he settles into the waters of the channel.
That was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
It looks like the prize money is safe for another year. Unless the very last contestant can defy the laws of physics. Dick Chilodi is the traditional final entry. He specializes in large, awkward, heavy flying machines. This year's entry is named, logically enough, Julietta the Moose. Can Julietta do it? Can she take wing and soar into history? It's all over but the prizes. Every flyer gets an official certificate to prove they were crazy enough to go through with it.
Paul Burrows 3 times today into the water. Princess Leia, that's right, with the buns in the hair. I remember it well. How did you do?
Terribly.
Was it as frightening as you thought it was going to be?
Worse.
The top prize, £1,000 for the longest distance flight, goes to now 3-time champ Ron Freeman. The tidewater is receding once more from the Bognor Pier. But dependable as the tide, the Bognor Birdmen will rise again next year to defy reality, ignore gravity, and reach with outspread wings for the waiting heavens. Coming up next on Things You Have to See to Believe, an off-the-beaten-path museum in Philadelphia that features brains and skulls and a liver for 2. Later, faith is put to the test in an ancient ritual in the Philippines you have to see to believe. We're back with Things You Have to See to Believe. Philadelphia, land of life, liberty, and the pursuit of body parts. A few minutes walk west of the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall is the Mutter Museum at the College of Physicians. Inside this musty old building is a dazzling array of anatomical wonders.
I think it's kind of cool, but it's kind of like creepy. It's fun to look at.
I never knew people could develop all these sorts of oddities.
The Mutter collection was assembled as a prestigious medical training ground in the mid-1800s and is still used by doctors today. Dr. Maury Critchen is a radiologist at the University of Pennsylvania and a volunteer at the museum.
This is an opportunity for the researcher to see things that you can't just find in textbooks anymore. For instance, we thought syphilis was gone, and now there's a resurgence on syphilis. So you can see examples of these things and how they affect the skin, how they affect the bones.
They become mummified.
But the museum opened to the public when it became apparent that locals had a thing for their neighbors' most private parts.
We are a place where people can come and see things they can't see anywhere else. And some of the conditions that you see here, like a horn growing out of a woman's forehead, you wouldn't believe if someone told you that such a thing existed. But if you see it here in the museum, you know it did exist, and you can find out about the woman. And you can find out that, yes, it's just a cornucutaneum, a outgrowth of the skin.
You may be able to stomach this wax model, but the real preserved body parts at the museum may send shivers up your spine, or your hip bone, your knee bone, or even your entire body. This is the tallest human skeleton on public display. The young Kentuckian was almost 8 feet tall. Harry Eastlack had another baffling medical condition in the late 1800s. When he died at age 39, his joints were frozen. He was hardly able to wiggle his fingers or his toes. And here's a head-turner, a row of 139 human skulls. They were collected from corpses in Eastern Europe more than a century ago in one of the earliest anthropological studies of the human head. Not far away are some folks with a little more color. These wax models represent real cases of syphilis, tuberculosis of the skin, and fungal facial diseases. But if you find that hard to swallow, take a look at these. A collection of over 2,000 objects swallowed and then removed by a doctor who didn't use surgery or anesthesia. In the early 1920s, Dr. Chevalier Jackson mastered the art of fishing buttons, hooks, and safety pins out of patients' stomachs while they were awake. More recently, federal regulatory agencies examined the objects to determine age limits on children's toys.
Today, this kind of information is used in designing Happy Meal figures.
One big exhibit at the Mutter Museum is hard to miss. It's the 40-pound colon of this unfortunate fellow. At age 29, his colon equaled almost 1/3 of his entire body mass. A weight problem got the best of this 19th century woman too. In a bizarre chemical reaction, her fatty tissue turned into a soap-like substance.
She was someone who was found in the Philadelphia graveyard, and she was of interest scientifically because through a chemical change, her entire body was turned to a soap-like substance, preserving the soft tissues.
There are several world-renowned appendages at the Mutter, but the most famous body part in the place belonged to not one, but two people. The original Siamese twins, Chang and Ang Bunker. Throughout their connected lives, the duo longed for a split, but the operation was deemed too risky.
Today, we could have used MRI and seen it was fibrous tissue, taken the scissors and cut it, and they would have been separated initially. But because the doctors at that time didn't have those mechanisms of investigation, they didn't know what vital tissues were in that attachment, and so they left them as they were.
After their deaths and an autopsy by the College of Physicians in 1874, the connective liver tissue was donated to the museum. Today, it basks in the glow of formaldehyde. But if you don't like liver, here's something else to chew on.
Besides the conjoined livers of Chang and Ang, we have other pieces of very important people in the museum, and one of the most important is a tumor that was removed from President Grover Cleveland in a secret operation in 1893.
At the height of a financial crisis that year, Grover Cleveland discovered he had a tumor in his mouth. Afraid that the news would cause an economic panic, he had the growth secretly removed while on a yachting trip. Today, the tumor is a star-bottled attraction at the museum. Spending the afternoon among such high-profile body parts provides visitors ample time for reflection.
It's really a chance for you to understand how you feel about death and disease, and to just simply commune with some of the specimens and let yourself go through these emotional reactions and see where they take you.
You go from shocking, startling, amazing, unbelievable. It really has a great collection of things here.
One of the museum's visitors is dying to get in. Barbara Kotzen wants to donate her curved spine to the Mutter Museum after her death.
I thought it would be useful medically and also just as a curiosity to have people come and see what a repaired scoliosis looks like.
Barbara had a severe case of scoliosis until a complicated surgery placed 2 metal rods along her spine, partially correcting the curve.
You can see the severe curve in the vertebrae has been lessened. While you're on the operating table, the surgeon pulls you apart on the one side and gets in there and manipulates everything that he has to change.
Barbara's corrected spine has a special place in the hearts of collectors at the Mutter Museum.
I hope we don't get it for a number of years, since Barbara's still enjoying her spine, but eventually it will be a wonderful addition.
But it seems Kotzen is not alone in her desire to hang around the Mutter Museum after death.
We've been getting more calls recently, and people would like to be part of the museum. And for them to make this choice and want to be part of an ongoing educational experience for people is just wonderful.
Once those human parts are all on exhibit, they'll add to an already amazing collection of thousands of human organs and appendages you thought you'd never see.
It's overwhelming. There's a lot of things to see.
It's gross. I'm gonna puke.
You may be easy or queasy about communing with such fascinating body parts, but there's only one way to find out. You'll have to see them for yourself. Coming up next on Things You Have to See to Believe. Chaotic camels run the course. Maybe in Alice Springs, Australia. Later, true believers put their faith to the test. We're back with Things You Have to See to Believe. This is tree conservation. And this is tree contortion. Tree conservation requires careful keeping of things horticultural. Tree contortion demands unorthodox manipulation of things arboreal. Conservation ensures ecological equilibrium. Contortion creates complete discombobulation. Welcome to Bonfanti Gardens in Gilroy, California, 30 miles south of San Jose. This is a theme park dedicated to trees. 75 acres of horticultural refuge.
We decided to build a park around trees because of a passion that I developed about 25 years ago.
But Bonfanti Gardens is also home to the mind and tree-bending work of famed tree contortionist Axel Erlandson. Back in 1927, the Swedish tree contortionist decided straight was out and curvature was in. And so he crafted and grafted a whole orchard of circus trees.
And this was just a hobby and certainly a passion that he developed. And the only unfortunate thing is he didn't share the technique with anybody.
No one's quite sure how the four-legged giant came to be a four-legged fusion of giant sycamores. The tree contortionist must have been a basket case while grafting and training the basket tree.
It certainly represents the most complex development that he did. It's 6 different trees grafted together 42 different times over a period of 3 or 4 years.
Thanks to the tree conservation of Bonfanti Gardens, the contorted trees of Axel Erlandson will inspire arboreal dreams in young and old for years to come. Circus trees, something you have to see to believe. But if you think the tangled trees in Bonfanti Gardens are odd, just wait till you spend a day at the races in the land down under. And they're off. Around the track they go. Witness the superior athleticism of the thoroughbred racehorse. This truly is the sport of kings. But in Australia, a day at the races really means a horse of a different color. In fact, it doesn't mean horses at all. Yes, down under, the sport of racing is dominated by dromedaries. Here at the annual Camel Cup races in Alice Springs, Australia. And this, you've gotta see to believe. With its deep orange and red hues, the landscape around Alice Springs in the southern half of Australia's Northern Territory is known as the Red Centre. And one of the best ways to experience this spectacular scenery is on camelback. In fact, it would seem camels were made for the Australian outback. They were imported in the 1800s as a mode of transportation for the arid land, since they can go 40 days without water. That's the good news. The bad news is they have a reputation for being ill-tempered, smelly spitters.
As far as I know, camels don't spit. It's a little bit closer to vomit.
Today, these odorous, surly creatures who were once banished to the desert to live their lives in obscurity have found a new reason for being in one of the most outrageous events ever concocted on the continent of Australia. Tourists from all over the world flock to Alice Springs to watch the camels spring into action at the Camel Cup races. The competition for the annual Camel Cup kicks off with preliminary heats to determine the finalists. Cameliers Rowena Fairbrother and Gwen Chappell ready themselves and their mounts for this year's competition at Breathaking Park.
I haven't actually ridden in the Cup before. This is my first year. To be honest, I haven't actually even galloped on a camel before.
I've got some trophies at home, 2 seconds and 2/3. I haven't got a first yet, maybe today.
Like most races, the object is to cross the finish line first. But camels, unlike their thoroughbred counterparts, first have to rise to the occasion. After that, the challenge for camel jockeys is to hold on. And hold on tight.
Yes, there it goes. We had a fall.
The racing is fierce.
Oh, we got a fall.
We're going to ride it
today.
Because that camel will be coming home without a jockey. But let's hear it for the jockey.
Of course, in camel racing, things don't always go as planned. Along with their humps, some camels have minds of their own. But spectators also enjoy some comic camel relief during the honeymoon handicap. Tuxedoed riders have to scoop up their brides, then bolt for the finish line. Like most weddings, somebody's always got a gripe. As the finals near, Aussie pride fills the air. In addition to the camel races, there's a whirlwind of goings-on before the big event. And no Camel Cup would be complete without crowning a camel queen.
And here is your trophy. My trophy, this is beautiful, thank you.
As the countdown to the race begins, the finalists take their places on the track. Cameliers Gwen Chappell and Rowena Fairbrother have both qualified for the Cup race. And as camels get into position, the tension really mounts. And they're off. Camelier Gwen Chappell rides Beza to victory by a hump to take this year's Camel Cup.
Fantastic. What a great job.
Great ride.
How happy am I?
The race may be over, but the celebrations are just beginning.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie!
The Camel Cup is a real source of pride for the folks from Alice Springs.
Well done, thank you.
From start to finish, there's no day at the races like a good day from the annual Camel Cup competition in Alice Springs, Australia. A race you've really got to see to believe. Coming up next on Things You Have to See to Believe. The faithful in the Philippines put their beliefs to the ultimate test in an amazing ritual. We're back with more incredible Things You Have to See to Believe. A cross rises on a sun-scorched hill. Beyond, thousands gather in anticipation. Steel spikes are at the ready. It's Good Friday across the Philippines. And in one small town, penitents are about to fulfill their pact with God in an amazing ritual of crucifixion. When it comes to a sense of the dramatic, few countries can outdo the Philippines. More than 65 million people live on the 7,000 islands that make up this nation. The scenery is some of the most breathtaking in the world. And the culture and customs come together in a dramatic display of passion and devotion that you have to see to believe. More than 700 years ago, the Spanish introduced Christianity to the Philippines. Today, nearly everybody is Catholic, but some have blended age-old tribal beliefs into their modern ways of worship. And the result is amazing to even the most experienced traveler. One of the country's most shocking rituals happens in San Pedro Cutud, a nondescript farming village some 50 miles north of Manila on the island of Luzon. Life is usually pretty quiet for this village of around 1,500 people. But Easter time is showtime. More than 10,000 visitors flood the town for a couple of days of public flagellation and bloody adoration. It all culminates in a series of jaw-dropping tributes to the death of Christ. The sometimes gory festivals kick into high gear on Holy Thursday. Dozens of hooded men take to the streets. Using lashes tipped with sharp bamboo, they whip themselves raw in sacrificial acts of faith, while whipping spectators into a frenzy. Most flagellants hope God will grant them favors in exchange for their suffering. Spectators often urge on the bleeding penitents by pricking their backs with a needle or sliver of glass. This is supposed to ease the flow of blood. But this bloodfest is just a prelude to Good Friday's Passion Play and grand finale, the mass crucifixions. Early in the morning on Good Friday, many townspeople gather in church for quiet prayer. Outside, a frenzied crowd prepares for the spectacle of crucifixion that is about to unfold. Officials estimate this year's crowd at 15,000, one of the biggest ever. The focal point of this extravaganza of pain, penance, and fame is a small hill on the outskirts of town that serves as a mythic Calvary, a stand-in for the Jerusalem site where Christ was crucified. The journey to Calvary begins in town, where penitents are grabbed from their homes in staged arrests. This is nothing new for local fish merchant Cheeto Sangalang. He is fulfilling a penata, a kind of contract with God. He promised that he would be crucified 15 times if God would heal his sick mother. Today marks his 15th and final crucifixion. In a mock arrest, men dressed as Roman centurions take Cheeto Sangalang away from his home. Under the weight of a heavy wooden cross, Cheeto begins the ritual by marching like Jesus. The sun beats down. The crowd presses in. Cheeto marches on. 100 flagellants join the procession. All chaos breaks loose as the guards shut the makeshift gates behind Cheeto and 2 other penitents. This is no mock crucifixion. It's the real thing. In a flash, expert nail drivers are hammering 4-inch spikes into the penitent's hands. They say the slightest mistake can cause a crippling injury. The intensity reaches its peak when the men are raised up for all to see. That's when Cheeto goes one step further with his devotion, by having his feet impaled as well. While the strange spectacle at times feels aimed only at entertaining the public, for each of the men up on the cross, it appears a solemn experience. The pain is so intense, the men can stay up for only about 5 minutes. The next round of crucifixions begins. Historians say crucifixion was invented by the Persians and perfected by the Romans. In reality, it's a brutal death. It might take hours to actually die. And usually the crushing weight of being in a slumped position for so long causes suffocation. Here, the arms are tied to give support, and the penitents stand on small pedestals. At 3 o'clock, the hour of Christ's death, it's time for 40-year-old Rolando Ocampo, the best known of the penitents. He's the last to go. Rolando's black cross turns burning hot under the baking sun, and helpers cool it off before he gets impaled. At 3:15 in the afternoon, the spectacle is over. The crowds disperse and the crosses are put away until next year. For those who were nailed to the cross, it is time to heal and to return to their normal, quiet lives. For Cheeto Sangalang, recovery won't be easy. Apparently, a misdirected nail shattered a bone in his right foot. Still, Cheeto has fulfilled the vow he made 15 years ago. And now his crucifixion spikes will remain sealed in a jar on his altar for good. Ritual crucifixions in the Philippines are an amazing expression of people's devotion to God that captures the attention of believers and spectators alike. So the people, the fascination, and the fanaticism continue to grow year after year. It's a spectacle that you just have to see to believe. The world is filled with the bizarre, the freakish, and the fantastic. From leaps of faith in the Philippines to flights of fancy in England. These are things you have to see to believe.